bad news for us, right? It's not great, is it? Broken down by area, it can be as high as 45%. Especially like in Spinney Hills, it's nearly 45%, which is really high actually. That's nearly 50% of the population without a qualification. And that's an area that's heavily populated by Muslims. So over the next few weeks, we need to try and make you understand what options are available for you so we can get that figure up, because I know that there's a lot of talent and a lot of intelligence in the area. So let's look into that. You see in Islam, so we're going to go into apprenticeship. So in Islam, Muslims are guided by rules that explicitly prohibit them from taking out loans and interest. This means that unless you're sitting on a cool 35 or 60K in your bank account, university educated via permitted, as in halal means, becomes inaccessible for the vast majority. But I know that, Hannah, you've mentioned that even your son and his friends are also finding...
it's not just...
The cost.
It's just the cost is scary for people.
To go university and leave with that kind of debt.
Thinking that you're going to pay it for pretty much the rest of your life.
That's insane, isn't it? So many young Muslims, and it seems that non-Muslims as well, from what Hannah's saying, are grappling with the idea around that crazy amount of debt that you can use, that you can obtain from leaving universities. Now, just to say, the government has a plan for an alternative student finance option catered to Muslims, started sometimes after 2025. While that sounds it's worth considering for those leaving in school in a couple of years, let's think of it like the new option may not directly charge interest, but it's highly likely that they will impose some sort of fee or contribution payment. And it could end up costing Muslim students even more in the long run compared to the standard student finance counterparts. So today we're bringing you an appealing alternative that won't take more out of your pocket than expected and allow you to stay true to your faith. Apprenticeships which require you to pay back a grand total of nothing. In fact, you'll actually be making money on an apprenticeship due to the earn while you learn structure in a win-win and win situation. You can attest to that, can't you, Tina?
Absolutely.
So you get a valuable qualification, real-world experience in your chosen field, and a paycheck to boot. So I highly encourage fellow young Muslims out there to consider apprenticeships as your ticket to a bright, debt and interest-free future. It's a decision that aligns with our faith, ensures financial well-being, and paves the way for a successful career. By choosing this route, you hopefully might inspire others to follow suit. And Tina will love that, because you'll be joining a lot of the vast talent that she's got in her team who'll be helping you, teach you, and do your apprenticeship. So before I go into that, I'm going to talk a little, because I did an apprenticeship. I did a level 6 one to become a marketing manager. And the reason why I did it is because I did media technology at De Montfort University. I then ended up working in the marketing team for a while. And it turned out that after working under the team, that I didn't know many of the theory, the sort of academic theory around things. So although I understood what Hannah was doing when she was drawing these charts on the table and SWOT, strength, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, I was like, oh, what's going on here? I get what you're doing, but I don't quite understand it. Which led me to go in asking, and Hannah supported me into going to do a marketing manager apprenticeship. So I was also earning while I was learning. So I was already earning anyway, and then I was learning, and I just recently qualified with a distinction, might I add. Alhamdulillah. So I
think that's an important thing to say, though. It's not, apprenticeships aren't just for new employees. Employers can use the funds that are available for existing employees to upskill them, to fill in gaps in their training knowledge or where people might want to develop.
Yeah, that's a bit of a segue into bringing you in, Tina, because Hannah's mentioned the finances, but there's something called the apprenticeship levy that the government introduced. So I guess this one's a little bit more for employers, I guess. So now that Hannah's sort of mentioned that, the reason why myself and Hannah went into apprenticeships is because we wanted to use our employer's levy in order to upskill ourselves, essentially. So can you tell us a little bit more about levy? And I'd give a shout out to employers to tune into this one.
Of course. So the levy was introduced in 2017. It's for employers that have a wage bill of 3 million or more. So they have a pot of money that they can utilise for apprenticeships, and that's not just for new recruits. It's like Hannah mentioned, for existing staff. So it ranges from right the way from level 2 all the way up until level 7.
Oh, wow.
Managers, can go on to degree level programs as well. And since the levy has been introduced, we've seen such a massive uptake in terms of the employers that are working with us here at the college, utilising their apprenticeship levy, because if they don't use it, they lose it.
Yeah, so that's quite important, I guess. So that in the past, where you may have found that the employers rather may not have looked into hiring apprentices, I guess this incentive meant that, because they'd be paying extra tax, if you will, into the public sector, well, the government. I guess it enables them to be like, actually, if you want to bring that money back into the organisation, it's important for us to then look into opportunities where we can hire talent from the community at any level, but also upskill the current talent that they have, which is what we did with me going up to do marketing manager's apprenticeship. I found it really interesting. It is difficult going back into education after 12, 15 years. God, a long time. But I think it was really interesting to actually learn some of the theory around it, juggling between actually doing the job and also learning new skills. I can't say, I have actually used some of the skills that I've used now. I think it gives me a lot of structure, especially when we're strategizing. It really helps. So I would highly recommend if you wanted to sort of do that. And I did a degree level. So, it was really interesting. It was that higher level. And they're not easy, contrary to what people think. A lot of people think, apprenticeship, that's the easy way out. It actually really isn't. And they've been developed quite a lot over the last few years in terms of the frameworks and the knowledge, behaviours and the skills that you have to learn. And they just keep being enhanced over the years, don't they?
That's right. So every 3 years, the apprenticeship standard is revisited. So it's not the government setting these standards. It is a bank of employers that will work with the Institute of Apprenticeships to revisit the apprenticeship programmes. Fantastic.
So I'm going to bring in Hannah here now. So I believe that you did a level 6 higher level apprenticeship, so master's level.
Level 7.
Why have I got level 6 there? Level 7. I did the level 6. Tell us a bit about why did you choose to go back into the education, and why was apprenticeship a good route for you?
So I'd been thinking about going back and doing a master's for quite a long time, but it's really difficult where you're working to combine that level of study with full-time work and family and everything else, so all the other things that everyone's got going on. So I've been looking around for stuff, and through conversations of other people and knowing that the college is a levy player, like a lot of other large employers, that there was opportunities to use some of that money to maybe upskill and train using that. Sorry. So I had a look around, got support from my manager at the time, and applied to do it, and it's taken me longer to do, which is another good thing about it, is that you're able to take breaks in learning. So there's periods of the time where we're just really, really busy, and I couldn't cope with...
Well, COVID came in between, didn't it?
Well, yeah, so I started in April 2020, so that was
completely put a spanner in the works for many of us while we were doing it, didn't it?
Yeah, but there's other times that when we're just really busy and it's really hard to combine it, so you can take breaks in learning and then go back to it. And it's meant that I've got a Level 7 Chartered Management Institute diploma, and I've also got a master's in senior leadership. But there's apprenticeships in so many different things, from really weird and wonderful stuff. I think I saw one the other day for like an abattoir or something.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
So there's that right through to like a master's in senior leadership. So if you're thinking about it, there's probably an apprenticeship that links to it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think if you're working for a large employer, you might not know this, but actually it's always worth approaching your manager or your HR department if you've got something that you want to do, and actually see if you can upskill into that area. I think that's something that many people are really scared to do, aren't they? They're scared to approach their employer and ask for upskilling because it costs a lot, but then they think, oh no, they might think that I'm not ready for this or that. But actually it's a good way of a segue to move up the ladder as well, isn't it?
It's a good way for employers to keep staff as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're training them in the way that you want them trained. When we've had apprentices in our team as marketing assistants, and you're just waiting for a new one to start, aren't you? That, they learn all the theory, but they're trained then in the way that we want them to work, rather than someone who's because just doing a degree is not it's a big thing. But if you've got that academic side of it, but you've not got any practical skills,
that's a valid
you've still
point.
got to learn all of that as well.
Yeah, that's a valid point, because we had an apprentice that came in and wanted a change of career from banking into marketing. And they stayed with us a few years, didn't they? And then went on to work for a large corporate, and is fully fledging in that arena now, and a marketeer now, you'd say.
Definitely, so, very well. Yeah. But they learn all that
without the debt as well.
Without the debt, with getting paid. But they learn all of those key on the job skills, and it's also soft skills and things as well.
That's
like,
true.
If people are going to go make a cup of tea, how does it work? How does that work in the office? Do you have to go and get a cup of tea for other people at the same time? Because
the work etiquettes of how to behave in an office and those behaviours. Yeah, that's a really valid point. So a little bit more. Let's dive into a little bit more about you doing your apprenticeship, Hannah. What were the challenges you faced as an apprentice?
It's really hard going back, like you said, back into education. I think if you're a younger person and you're leaving school and you may be going on to level 2 or level 3, you've still got that study kind of head on. I went to uni a really, really long time ago, so going back into it and learning how to juggle work and study is hard. And
I hated doing Harvard referencing again.
I didn't. I
forgot how to do that.
Really, really hard skill. It's like, how do I do Googling? Like, how do I do that? And then I found a really good website that just.
Well, we didn't have those when we did it. We had to actually manually do the Harvard referencing. Now you have websites that do it for you.
Well, I did my degree before Google, so that's how old I am.
Giving away your age.
So combining that, though you do get 20%, so your employer has to give you 20% of your working week off the job to go and do the stuff to do with your apprenticeship. It doesn't mean you have to do a day a week. It could be that you have a block of time, or that you do a whole week and then you might not do some for a while, or you might do a day a week, or some weeks do 2 days, another week do. It doesn't matter, but you have to have that 20%. So that does allow you to combine it, but it is hard, and going back in and getting back into that mindset of studying, that's the thing that I found the most difficult.
So how did you choose your apprenticeship? What made you say that's the right one for me?
So,
because there's so many providers, and so many.
So I wanted to do one where I could physically go in and be with other apprentices. COVID
kicked that out the window.
Yeah, that didn't happen. I didn't step foot on the campus once. But that was my initial thing, was that I wanted something local so that I could actually go and be with other people, because I didn't want to sit and do it in isolation, although that is actually
what happened.
So that limited it for me, but there are loads of, depending on who you are and how you want to study, there's different ways. You can have a blended learning approach where you spend some of it with other people and do some of it on your own. You can do it completely online and kind of distance learning. I must say, even though I did it remotely, there was still loads of support from the training provider. I wanted a management qualification. I've got a marketing degree, so I've already got that.
Of course,
that knowledge in the area that I work in. But I felt to progress and continue to move up in management and much more in the business management side of things, that I needed a management qualification. Right. So that's just why I did a senior leadership apprenticeship, because it taught me a lot of the things that I felt I needed.
Thank you. So I'm going to bring in all of us here. So I'm going to start. So the next question is, what tips would you give someone that's about to start an apprenticeship? So Tina, I'm going to ask you that one. If someone's about to start an apprenticeship, what tip would you give them?
I'd say do your research on the company. Make sure you block in your 20% off the job time, just as Hannah mentioned. It doesn't have to be a rigid day. You could do a couple of hours here and there. Work with your manager, get them involved in your apprenticeship program, show them your work plan, show them your training plan, make sure they are involved. And then just enjoy the journey and all the support that you get from the training provider. You
need to become a sponge, don't you, when you're an apprentice?
Absolutely.
Just take in everything from what you're learning and where you are, because they might not necessarily have an opportunity in that organisation after you finish the apprenticeship, because they might have not the budget to have someone full time. However, you need to be able to take those skills and apply them in any other organisation that you will definitely look at probably securing a job very quickly, because you've got that working experience.
That's right.
I think if you're younger as well, like for school leavers, or maybe you've done A-levels or something like that, and you're then looking for work, because maybe you don't want to go to university. You need to be convinced that is the right thing for you.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because it's a job. It's not is not just going along and having a go at doing something. You are working full time.
Yeah, and you have to mature very quickly because you're working in a working environment. So if you have a young apprentice who's just come out of school, they are going from a very much a school sort of environment into a work environment. And I know that in our team, we don't treat our apprentices any different, which actually is most workplaces. And I raised that point for a particular reason. Many people think, no, you become an apprentice, all you're going to do is go and make coffees and teas for people. No. That's not the case, is it, Tina?
No. And we always kind of, have these conversations with our apprentices to make sure that is not happening in the workplace. So we have a rigid plan that obviously our skills coaches will work with the employers and the apprentices.
And now things have changed a little bit as well, because we did ours when we didn't have to log exactly what we're doing on the hours. We just had to log how many hours in the week we've spent. But now, if you are logging your hours and what you've done, you actually have to highlight what you've done as part of your apprenticeship, don't you? And that's a change that's come in recently.
That's right. So you have to log your hours in, but also for employers to stop, taking on apprentices and just, using them just
as extra hands or extra help. Yeah.
So they've got a digital account service where they've got to register and show that they are taking on an apprentice.
So if this way you've got the apprentices that also have some accountability, but your employer will also have accountability to ensure that you're getting the most out of your apprenticeship.
I think that's really important as well for parents or carers of younger people to have that assurance that it is a really valid introduction to a career. And I know from going out to schools and talking to parents that there's this perception among some parents that you can only do apprenticeships in certain things like construction or engineering because they're traditional trades where you would do it. Whereas now you can do apprenticeships in all sorts. You can do, there's nursing apprenticeships. There's medicine, I think, is coming on. So you can actually be a doctor. You can be a doctor.
Wow.
I don't know that many trusts are actually.
I didn't know that
yet, but it's now a new apprenticeship standard. So it's just growing. It's growing, and I think it's going to, apart from those really academic subjects, that if you want to go and read history of art or something like that,
of course, yeah,
you're not going to do an apprenticeship in it. But for anything that's actually skills based rather than academically based, there's probably an apprenticeship out there
for everything. And I would say, if you are thinking about going into an apprenticeship, log on to the Institute of Apprenticeships. There's 150 apprenticeship standards that you can start to research. There's occupational maps, so it kind of tells you what your progression routes are as well. So definitely advise. You
can search by level, can't you, as well, in that area as well. So if you're thinking you need just a level 3, if you've left school and you're looking for level 3, that you can just filter it. You don't have to look at all of the masters and things like that.
So actually, what you can then go on to do as well, because I think you can do the apprenticeship, but then like what we've just discussed, you can then take it up and go back to university and do your degree as well if you wanted to after it. So it's not just a stop, do apprenticeship, and then you're stuck with apprenticeships. If you ever wanted to go back into education, you can do that as well.
That's right. So some of the level 3 programs gives you enough UCAS points to go into university. So we support that with progression. Obviously, there are progression routes to go into management as well. So it's not just the apprenticeship program, that we will talk to you about your progression routes as well.
So so if you change your mind, like you've decided level 3, I'm not going to do A levels or T level or B Tech. Actually, what I'm going to do is do a apprenticeship. And then you change your mind and think, actually, I do want to go university. I want to go down that route. It's not a stop. No. You don't have to.
No, it's not an option.
No. Yeah, it's an alternative.
You can top up as well. You can top up from, if you did a high level apprenticeship at level 5, which is like the first 2 years of a degree, you could go back and top up and do the degree level for a year. So you get a bachelor's degree still.
Brilliant. So alongside doing apprenticeships, we've touched on a little bit to do with employers already, and I mentioned that we have Tina here. So I'm going to pass over to Hannah to ask Tina some questions around employers and what they can do if they want to hire an apprentice.
So you work with employers of all different sizes, from like one-man businesses to huge employers.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, we work nationally as well.
So if an employer comes to you and says that they want an apprentice, or they want to recruit an apprentice, what do you do? What's the process?
So we go through an onboarding stage. So there are some checks that we do with the employers, because we just want to make sure it's the right employer, right apprentice and right course as well. Make sure that the job aligns to the apprenticeship standard. We start the onboarding process. We offer a recruitment service if they require recruitment. Half the time, you know, a small employer, especially around those trades, construction and engineering, you normally have an employer that's already got an apprentice in mind. Right. We take down their details and then we go through the start process as well, so the enrolment process.
So we can do the whole thing for them. So if they need recruitment, then we can find people for them.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll support with recruitment, we'll support with the DAS account, we'll support with everything.
So that's a digital apprenticeship service that they have to log on to use to access things. Mm-hmm. And if they're a larger employer that's starting maybe paying the levy and they've not got kind of all the system, they might not have a massive OD team or something like that within their organisation because they're big but not that big. Can we help with the management of the levy?
That's right. So I go in and I speak with their management team or their HR team. We utilise their levy to see how they can maximise that as well. What's
the weirdest apprenticeship you've recruited for?
Oh, the weirdest apprenticeship programme. I don't know. We do the traditional trades, don't we? So
yeah. You've not had any requests for anything odd?
Jewellery maker.
Okay. That's not odd. It's not weird, is it? No. But it's quite niche.
It is niche, yeah. But it's probably the odd one that we've had.
That's almost as odd as the saddle maker that I was asked about, of course.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah. Well, Hannah's mentioning saddle maker because she's got a horse.
Yeah, I need someone to make me a new saddle. But no, when I was at school, one of the school kids came up and said they wanted to be a saddle maker. So what could we do to help them?
Well, you'll need saddle makers.
Yeah, no, but it was actually our arts and design courses.
That's a valid point.
It's the design side of it, and you're learning to use like CAD and things like that.
Yeah, that's a valid point. So
if you're a small employer, how do you pay for it if you've not got this money that you're paying into the levy? What happens then?
So if you're a small employer and if you take on someone that's 16 to 18, it's a fully funded program. So there's no cost to the employer.
Apart from the salary?
Apart from the wage, which is obviously going up as of the 1st of April. On top of that, the small employer will also receive an incentive for taking on an apprentice. It's £1,000. That will just help towards the cost of the wages as well. If you are a small employer that's taking on someone that's 19 plus, the government fund 95% and then you will pay the 5%.
So it's not a lot towards
and it's very minimal in terms of the cost.
So small employers, it's a viable option into looking into that as well and seeing if you can hire an apprentice to be able to help your business and support your business as well. So if I wanted to become an apprentice today, what do I need to do?
So I'd say do your research, get in contact with a local training provider or get in contact with us. We'll support you. We'll start to get your CV ready and then start to match you with the apprenticeship opportunities available.
Oh, cool. Thank you for that, Tina.
What sort of salary do people earn when they're, I'm guessing it varies, but...
It does. We work with a range of apprenticeship employers. So the national minimum wage for an apprentice from the 1st of April will be £6.40, but we work with employers that pay above that.
Yeah, and if you're already working, then normally, like I just carried on earning the salary that... I'm exactly. You did the same thing. So if you're already working for a company,
that doesn't change. I just want to reiterate that.
You don't go back.
Yeah, because I think sometimes that can be a confusion, right?
You don't go back down onto a minimum wage or something like that.
That's right. Yeah. So if you are going, or you're thinking about using the apprenticeship levy from your company, it doesn't change your wage, doesn't change your title. It's just classed as professional development.
So it's just an added bonus of getting some more qualifications and skills, which are a benefit to the company. So you must have had some really cool success stories of students or apprentices rather, that have done some amazing things.
Yeah, so we've had apprentices that started on construction, level 2 bricklaying that are now managers. We work with engineering companies where we've seen a lot of their level 3 engineers that are now managing directors of the company. Wow. So it's fantastic. It's great to see the progression route. And especially for us, we had an apprentice that we were working with on the property maintenance program. She's now working for us in our team as a skills coach and supporting other apprentices.
Do you think it accelerates people's careers because you've got that practical and on the job training rather than having to go and learn all the theory and then kind of start again learning all the on-job bits?
Yeah, Yeah, it just gives you those vital skills that, that allows, it's transferable skills, really.
Yeah, that's a valid point. Is there any, so I know that many parents, we've sort of touched on it, they still worry that apprenticeship's not a viable career. So what is the skills gaps? Because essentially people go into education, they want to get a job, they want to earn money. So, and parents want that for their children as well. They want to get their young people into education so that they can get a good job and definitely go on to earn decent money. So where are the skills gaps? Where are the apprenticeship vacancies coming from at the moment, would you say?
So the current sectors that have got a national skills shortage is your construction trades, engineering, hairdressers. We are short of hairdressers across Leicestershire. There's metal fabrication and carpenters.
So there's a lot of the trades that are actually people are struggling. So I mean, I guess if you were to do an apprenticeship in any of those trades that you've just mentioned, you could actually become self-employed as well after them, couldn't you?
That's right. A lot of the apprentices that have done the apprenticeship route have then gone on to open their own businesses.
Buy a van, get the tools.
That's right. Yeah.
Get yourself a marketing person.
Don't leave your tools in the van overnight.
Yeah, don't leave it. Get yourself a marketing person, get yourself brand created. As long as you've got all the health and safety and all those certificates, you can go into working for yourself. Because I think sometimes, I know I've had conversations with people and the thought of having to work for a manager is not it's not them. And they don't like having to answer to someone. And actually apprenticeship in those trades is probably a viable route not to have that sort of structure.
There's also lots of that we do lots of kind of short courses and stuff. So if you're thinking about doing that route, you can do a short bookkeeping course or something like that alongside it, so that you know how to manage your own accounts. So you might need some professional advice from an accountant every now and again, but you've not got to pay an accountant. So there's other, you can do short courses that add on to it that you may have to pay for, but they're relatively low cost.
And then that can just enhance your business skills to go on to. So there's some real opportunities there, aren't there, with apprenticeships? Although contrary to what many people might think. In terms of
the trade sector, I mean, the salaries in the trade sector are huge. I mean, apprentices are earning a lot of money while they're training.
That's right. And, we've got bricklayers that have qualified that are earning more than £100 a week.
Wow. Any more than us? Is that what you just say?
Yeah. So, yes.
£100 a week? Yeah, that's wrong.
Yeah, £100 a day, sorry.
Yeah.
£100 a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. So they got, because I know that there's bricklaying shortages for definite, because I know as a college we're looking to recruit bricklaying lecturers, but many of them are in the industry, because why wouldn't you work in the industry when at the moment the wage is so high in terms of wanting people in that industry. So in terms of in terms of apprenticeship frameworks, which ones does Leicester College kind of cover?
So we deliver standards, so not
standards.
So we deliver over 25 apprenticeship standards, right from construction to engineering. We also deliver management programs, so that's the level 3 team leading, level 5 operations manager, business admin, and hairdressing. We also deliver dental nurse, because not a lot of employers know that we deliver dental nursing.
Is that something that's in real demand, dental nursing?
Yes, it's
the shortage of dentists, but
that's right, yeah. And a lot of our dental nurses, once they've completed, they've either gone into university or they've gone into specialists such as hygienists, etc., or nursing. Yeah.
So there's other options that you can do. You don't have to then stick into that, because you'll learn things that go across careers and transferable across other careers as well. So if someone wanted to apply and they didn't have confidence around interview skills, and is there any tips that you can give people? Because I think one of the things for sure, when you leave school, you've not really had any real interview experience. So I assume that if you were going to apply for an apprenticeship, you would be interviewed by the employer in a more real interview scenario. So how do you prepare people for that?
So we'll work with you to get you ready for that job interview. So we'll do discussions around, research the company, the types of questions that you may be asked. There's a guide, so our careers team are fantastic, so we can book you in with our careers team that can offer that support to you as well.
Do you do mock interviews as well?
We do, yes. So prior to you applying for the apprenticeship, so when you do that on the Gov website or, through your training provider, you are pre-screened by your training provider. So that is that mini interview that takes place.
It's also you help with getting CVs and things ready, don't you?
That's
and writing application forms and stuff. And I know this from doing it with my son because he's 17, that actually you've got to draw upon kind of other skills because that you've done in your other parts of your life to be able to make it relevant to the job. So if you've done any volunteering, if you're members of clubs, all those things that you learn but you might not think of as being an actual skill, but actually are, and you can take those to employers.
Which is actually a valid point. So if there's any young people listening, you probably hear it all the time from your teachers, right? Join a club, do some after school extracurricular activities,
volunteer,
be part of councils, be part of any sports team. That's why, because when you get around to doing your CV or get around to doing your sort of job interviews, those questions they'll be drawn to answering those from those extracurricular things to be that standout person in order to get that apprenticeship.
You've got to remember that the apprenticeship, it is a job. So it's competitive. It's not like applying to go to college where we will do our best to make sure that we can take as many students as we can onto a course. If there is one job or however many jobs and maybe 10 people applied for it,
you have to stand out.
You've got to stand out. It's competitive.
So and actually apprenticeship interviews, I've held, I've done the interviews as well. You are looking for someone that is no different to a normal interview that I would do for any other member that I'm recruiting for in my team. So it's really important to know some of those actually know where you're heading as well. Because what I've found that one of the questions that most young people trip up on is, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Because I guess it's a bit daunting to think about that, isn't it? And actually in an interview scenario, that's a very valid question. That where do you see yourself in 5 years? Because I guess as an employer at that moment, you're going to see how dedicated they are to that apprenticeship.
It's also about what that person can. I think a lot of young people as well think, oh, well, this job will do X, Y, Z for me. Actually, as an employer, I want you to bring something to me. So what can you bring to the table? You might need to, and if you're just starting out, you're going to learn, you're going to refine those skills, you're going to develop. But it's not about just what you can learn from the employer. You've got to bring something to the table. Yeah,
that's very true. What if I'm at college? Just putting a scenario out there. I'm at college and I'm not entirely sure if I'm enjoying my course. And now I'm thinking I want to do an apprenticeship. And I'm coming to the end, or I'm halfway through my first year. What options are available for me at that point?
So try and speak to your careers team or come and see the apprenticeship team. We'll guide you in terms of what your career aspirations are. See if there's any apprenticeship programs that we can start to send you out to. But I'll also encourage you to find work experience, because you never know when that work experience might turn into an apprenticeship program.
Because you could convince your employer, can't you, at that point to say, guess what?
Job.
It's also, I think that's important though, is that apprenticeships don't start at the same time as college courses. Right. So, because I think talking to young people in schools and things, they often think, oh, well, it will start in September because that's when college starts.
That's a good point, yeah.
Actually, they start throughout the year.
So you can start your course and then apply for apprenticeship.
Yeah, and it's also because it's when employers want someone. So you're waiting for someone to start now, aren't you?
Yeah, of course, yeah. So, and that's a common misconception, actually. So if you've got a young person right now in year 11 about to do the GCSEs and they want to do an apprenticeship, they still should apply for a course, shouldn't they? Because there's no guarantee that they'll have their apprenticeship straight away.
No, that's right. We always say apply for a full-time course because, as Hannah mentioned, it's very competitive. Even though you go onto a full-time course and say you find an employer, at least we can secure your place for the next intake. And then you've got enough skills that you can build when you go to that employer. Yeah,
so ideally, obviously the recommendation would be picking a course that's within the career that you are aspiring to be in. But then at that point, keep an eye on the Gov website, keep an eye on what apprenticeships are coming up, what employers are looking for, but make sure you apply for your course at the same time. I know that a lot of people, especially in the competitive, because our construction courses are just as competitive as apprenticeships, aren't they? To get a place on those courses is very difficult. And we found that a lot of people have thought, well, I've got an apprenticeship, so I don't need to apply for the course. And then they find themselves in a quandary, don't they?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think you can set up alerts on the Gov site, I think, that's as well. Yeah. So, so if you are interested in a particular thing, you can set up job alerts like any other kind of employment website.
So what in terms of if people want to find out more about apprenticeships, say today, obviously there are open days around various providers as well as the colleges hold open days. But if someone wanted to know more, how can they get in touch with you, Tina, or your team, wider team?
So just log on to the Leicester College website. You'll see all our details. You see our contact details, and then the team will make contact with you to book that appointment.
Brilliant.
And so the vacancies are advertised on there. Yeah. So when we have new
vacancies, you can go on the website and have a look. And I'm assuming that's the same for most providers as well around the city. Right. Mm-hmm. Do you work with, how often do providers work with each other to help support apprenticeships, or would you not normally do that?
With other training providers. Yeah. We do meet other training providers on
to say if Leicester College didn't offer something.
But yeah, that exactly. So if we don't offer a certain program, then we would signpost young people or individuals over to that other training provider. So we do work closely with our local competing training providers, shall we say.
So would you only deal with employers within Leicester, or?
No, so we used to be Leicestershire based, but since last year we're working nationally and now working with some international companies.
Wow, so how does international companies work? If you're recruiting, would you recruit here and send the apprentice out? Really?
So they would initially start their training here at a Leicester-based office or a Leicestershire-based office, and then with the scope of working abroad. So we do some blended learning as well.
So is that for new employees, or is that their existing staff?
It's a mixture. So we've got some engineering employers that do a lot of work abroad as well. So they'll go and do some fixings internationally. And then we've got a lot of operations managers as well that are existing staff.
So give us some destinations. Where's people heading out when they're going out abroad?
South Africa, America.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, so
have they got any vacancies?
Have a look on our website.
Can we head to South Africa as well?
Do with some sun.
Exactly. It's fantastic. Especially if you're an apprentice and you're working for a large company, you've got some brilliant opportunity to go and work abroad as well.
Brilliant. So how many apprentices does Leicester College have at the moment?
So we're just off 1,300 apprentices.
Wow, that's currently. A lot of apprentices. And you're recruiting pretty much on a monthly, weekly, daily basis.
So our apprenticeship programs, we do have 2 intakes, but depending on demand with employers, we can start courses.
Are there any particular areas where you might have to apply earlier or look earlier for things?
That's right. Hannah, construction and engineering are 2 of our largest sectors.
And do we advertise those or not, or does it tend to be on the employers' sites that they're looking for it?
Yeah, the employers bring the apprentices ready to enrol on.
So that's another thing that actually, if you're looking for careers, it's good to look on the Gov site or the providers' sites, but actually look at the big employers in the sectors that you want to work in, because their vacancies may well just be advertised on there, I'm guessing.
Yeah. And if you are looking for those sectors, I would say now is the time to go out and research those companies.
I guess there's an element of proactiveness then here as well. So if you, in your goals in your life, no matter what stage you're at, whether you're a school leaver or an adult and you want a change of career, and you were thinking, well, do you know what? I'm fed up. I've been doing this for X amount of years, or I'm leaving school, but I want to work for that employer, and I know that I want to work for that employer. You could be then sat there thinking, right, actually, I could send an email to that company and put that proposal forward.
You do need to be proactive. So, drawing on my own personal experience again, and he'll hate me for saying this, but my son's doing work experience now, which will hopefully lead on to an apprenticeship. He's been really proactive. He's literally walked around to people and gone, I've been doing this is my portfolio. Are you interested? And he's then gone away, took the feedback, changed it, made it better, and gone back out, and that's led to it.
And that can be a bit scary, can't it, for young people to have to do that? But actually, it's something you're gonna have to do no matter what once you start work. Because I remember when I started work at Leicester College initially, and I had to go into a staff room with, especially the construction staff room. I remember walking in and feeling quite meek and thinking, oh no, how am I going to speak to all these people? I'm not anymore. How am I going to speak to everyone? But then you have to very quickly learn those skills, and actually doing that little proactive bit actually might help catapult those soft skills that you need in order to, and stand out, because that employer is going to actually see that you've got something about you to do that. And then they might even create an apprenticeship because you've actually proven that there's something about you that they need in that organization.
As well, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And apprenticeships are very much about that. It's about wanting to, because you can't just go walk into apprenticeship and not do any of that work. Like I said at the start of this, they're not easy.
No. Are you going to do an apprenticeship, Tina?
Not at the moment, Hannah. But I am looking into it, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, they're definitely not easy. I remember when I was doing mine and having to read all the content, but then when we got to the end point assessment, the EPA,
that's right,
the most daunting words an apprentice can hear, and you're working down to your final discussion to talk about what you've learned and file your reports and all of that. That bit was it's intense.
It is, you're right. And the EPA, for those that are not sure about that, when it comes to the end of your apprenticeship program, you'll sit an endpoint assessment, and that's independently assessed. So training providers will help and support you, but ideally it'll be an awarding body that will come out and assess you. And then there's practical assessment, there's a theory assessment, and there's that professional discussion that you'll have with the independent assessor. So it's daunting, but at the end of the endpoint assessment, that employer, has got the right person for the job. You've got those skills.
Fantastic.
What happens if you don't pass it?
So depending on what you failed on, you can resit it. So you can have many attempts to resit that EPA. You don't have to, redo your whole course again.
Right.
Oh, so then you don't have to worry about that bit. You've got other opportunities to be able to do it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I found my EPA particularly interesting. Yeah, I was really prepared, sat down in the room, and then technology failed me. I couldn't log in. My laptop decided it wasn't going to give me permission. She sat there waiting for me, and I was like, oh my God, I failed already. So even at this big age, you still have that sort of, oh no, I failed, everything's failed.
I couldn't share my presentation. I couldn't share the screen.
Oh, so you had the same issue?
I ended up having to just talk. I had to send it to him and talk through it.
Oh God, that's so that your technology failed you as well. But we got through it.
We
got through it.
Exactly, yeah.
So thank you. Is there anything that you want to say as a takeaway point in terms of apprenticeships?
Just want to reiterate, it's not just those traditional trades. There are a vast option available in apprenticeship. So think about it. As Hannah mentioned and Wajeeda mentioned, earn while you learn. There's a lot of options available for apprenticeships.
Brilliant, thank you. So just before we wrap up the show, I just wanted to let people know that Leicester College is hosting a big iftar in association with City Retreat on the 21st of March, 4:30 to 8 p.m. There are 20 tickets that we're just putting out there because it's pretty much booked up now. So we're launching 20 tickets today. So please go on our website, hit open iftar, big iftar button, and you'll be able to book yourself on. There's just 20 tickets left. But just wanted to say thank you to my guests. Hannah.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me. And thank you to Tina as well.
Thank you, Wajeeda.
Thank you. We have got Aisha coming back next week. And I believe following me at 3 p.m, we have the Urayan Club with Alia Amjad, followed by Voices of Tomorrow with Abdul Rahman Muhammad.